All right, everybody, this is Jeff Farner at East Valley Rocks for the Drummers Universe. I'm here today with Sam Pastorella. Sam, how's everything going?
What's up, Jeff? I'm good, man.
I'm good too. How's your drumming world today? In just a couple words.
It's great. Staying busy with music.
That's
No complaints.
that's great. Okay, so just in case not many people know you from the page, tell us where you're from and how long you have been drumming.
So I'm from Rochester, New York, and I've been drumming for about 15 years.
Yeah. And are you currently with a band or anything?
It's a solo project called Drum Matrix. I had to wear this so help everyone spell it.
Awesome.
Plus, shameless self-promotion.
And I've listened to your project. We're going to talk more about that in a few minutes. But
Sure.
the new stuff and the old stuff you have is pretty cool. Tell us about how you got started and what was your first drum set?
So kind of a crazy origin story, but I actually was looking for something in my parents' basement back when I was 15, and I was digging through boxes and I actually found my stepdad's old Ludwig from the 70s, vintage drum kit. And I unboxed this thing what is this? This has been down here the whole time. And it turns out he was like, oh yeah, it was collecting dust. I didn't even know it was down there. And I was like, man, if this was set up, I'd love to play it. And then a few months later was Christmas, and he was like, hey, go downstairs. And so I walked downstairs, and he had new heads on it, and he had it all set up. He had to buy a few extra parts to, make it fully functional, but he refurbished his old Ludwig, and I actually started banging on that. And then eventually I was like, all right, it's time to, upgrade, get my own kit. And then I bought a used Thomas Superstar, played that for almost 15 years. I still have it. I'm actually selling it now. And now I'm playing a Mapex Saturn V, Saturn 5.
That's pretty cool. So all this time you're in your house and there's a drum set hidden down below.
Yep. And I had no idea it was there. It was a total fluke. And actually, that's the only reason I'm drumming. When you really think about it, I was not drumming before that. So
yeah,
it was a total godsend to find this drum set. And I'm like, oh, I want to play with that. And then, next thing I know, it's set up for me. So.
And how old were you then?
15-ish.
So then did you get to drum in school after that, or that wasn't a thing for you?
No, because by that time I had quit all the music programs. I actually played trombone in middle school, and I didn't really like it that much. I didn't know what I wanted to do. It kind of took me a while to figure out what my passions were,
That's cool. So did you have a teacher?
I did not have a drum instructor. No, it was all self-taught. And I, looking back, I wish I had, and, I wish I had been in marching band or drum corps. That would have been super helpful down the road. But again, it was just kind of a fluke, and it just happened. And I kind of figured it out as I went along.
So from then even till now, no formal instruction.
No.
Okay, so you figured out, because your stuff is really cool, you figured out the music theory and all that on your own.
Yeah, and a lot of that is, I figured it out at first by listening and, trying to emulate that stuff and play it back. So, learning covers and stuff like that. But I also got into music production without getting too into the weeds. But that, looking at a MIDI piano roll is kind of how I learned composition more than sheet music. So in a non-traditional sense, I can read MIDI scores a lot easier than sheet music, if that makes sense.
Well, no, which ironically enough is sort of like the Matrix. You look at that screen,
Yeah.
and you can see what's going on. No, that's cool.
Right.
That's cool. There. Do you still play the trombone?
No. I quit that when I was probably 13 or 14.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
What about a practice regimen? I'm asking a lot of drummers about that. What do they do for practice? Is there do you have a set plan? Some guys have a set plan, some guys don't. What do you do?
Yeah, it really depends what my goal is. So I take rehearsal before a gig very seriously, and I try and get at least 3 2-hour rehearsals in the week before a gig. And that regiment is pretty much solely focused on nailing the drum parts that I've written. So when I'm there in the studio, I'm there to I pretty much plug in the headphones, get everything set up the way I want it. I do a few basic warm-ups, nothing crazy, just, get the blood flowing. And then I'm basically there to accomplish those drum parts, hit them as nearly perfect as I can, and run those songs as many times as I can in like a 2-hour slot. But that's for rehearsing for a gig. As far as like just free flowing practice, I'll warm up playing to whatever song I feel like on Spotify.
Mhm.
And then lately I've been trying to get back into the regiments or the rudiments and, writing combinations of left and right. So that's what I was missing since I was a self-taught drummer and I didn't have instruction. I wish I had learned all the proper rudiments back in the day. So I'm trying to get back into that and really push myself, even though it's not as fun all the time as playing what you want to play. I think it's important to dedicate at least like 5-10 minutes at a time to doing combinations and rudiments.
What about your influences? What drummers? So you didn't have a teacher, so you probably were influenced by other things. What sort of drummers or what drummers did influence you when you were like developing?
Yeah. Matt Halpern from Periphery is pretty incredible drummer. He does a lot of, crazy time signatures. I've always liked polymeters and weird, tool type time signatures. And also Matt Gartzka from Animals as Leaders. He's the epitome of, prog today, like just insane patterns. And I mean, the stuff he plays, I wish I could play half the patterns that guy does. So I definitely say Matt Gartzka, #1 influence.
What about, so without formal training, which isn't the end all, because you're accomplishing a ton without having, formal training. What was the obstacle though you felt like you overcame?
Bad habits and like posture, is one thing. I'm always trying to work on my posture, sit up straight when I play, but also just bad habits, meaning like not necessarily form, but I used to be a really heavy hitter. And now I've kind of reined that in to try and just be very deliberate with each note, and clean everything up. But I basically had to overcome bad habits of just when you get in a rut and, right, left only gets you so far. And you really have to push yourself out of just leading right, 1, 2, 3, 4 on the hi-hat. You really have to think outside the box and try and push your limits. Otherwise, you can get stagnant.
Cool. When you're performing or recording, what part is the best? Because you got a lot going on, right? Because you're doing the composition, you're recording, and you're drumming. What do you enjoy the most though out of the whole experience?
I really enjoy performing. I think that's kind of the epitome because, you put in all this work in the studio to create these songs and compose and mix and master everything. It takes hours and hours, but the fruit of all that work is performing it in front of people and just making people dance and smile. That's kind of like what you do the whole thing for. That's the payoff essentially.
Cool. So for you, it's a lot of crowd interaction.
Yes. Yeah. And I've actually been trying to actually learn a little more flash, like some drumstick twists and flips, just to kind of, spice it up for the interaction with people, get them excited too,
That's cool. Speaking of that, what would, this is always an interesting question, your dream gig, and it doesn't have to be, it could be any sort of dream gig you want. It can be your band does whatever, or your act, or it could be someone approaches you, what would it be?
I would love to at some point headline a festival, like a electronic music festival.
Cool.
That would be the dream come true.
That's awesome. I like hearing that, what people have going on in their brains. Tell me about your drum set. And I try to remember to ask this one every time.
Okay.
You can tell me what it is and if there's anything like cool or unusual you have going on with your set.
Yeah, so it's a Mapex Saturn V or Saturn V. It's a beautiful kit. I just got it like 6 months ago, and I actually downsized. So I purposefully got a 20-inch kick and then 10, 12, 14. So pretty small and compact, but it still packs a punch. It sounds just as big as any kit I've ever had. And for a few reasons, mainly because if I'm going to lug it around all the time, I like that it's a little smaller, easier to move. Also, the fact that because the shells are smaller, you can have a tighter setup. When it's actually set up, the kick sits lower, so your toms can be nice and low if you want them low, and they're not right up against the top of your kick, and nothing really crazy unusual. It really is just like a kind of a mini rock kit. 2 crashes, China, ride, splash, hi-hat, and then a couple like small bells. But everything sits on, I have a hi-hat stand, 2 cymbal stands with booms, like added booms, and then 1 more stand over here. So everything fits on essentially 4 stands. It's pretty compact, but I fit a lot of stuff in a small space essentially. So it's very efficient.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
What sort of advice, and like there's a great piece of advice right there, like managing your drum kit. What sort of advice would you give to drummers that are younger / less experienced than you, maybe just getting started?
I would really urge them to try and dedicate at least 5 minutes per practice regiment to some drills or rudiments that aren't necessarily fun. Just because you can pick up the sticks and you could just jam to your favorite song, and that may not actually get you learning new things and pushing forward. So I really would urge people to try and learn paradiddle, double paradiddle, the basics, and then push the rudiments further, because basically it's like unlocking a new bag of tricks. The more combinations you learn, the more fills are going to be opened up to you. So that's something that no one taught me, it took me a long time to figure out. And I wish, had I had proper lessons, I'm sure they would have probably told me to do that from day one. So
That's cool. All right. So if there was one thing you could change in the music industry, and this can be the entire music industry, this can be the industry for yourself, this can be the industry as you see it in just your hometown, what would it be?
I would say it'd be nice if musicians made just a little more for their streams,
Mhm.
a little bit more gratuity for their own streams, because that's your blood, sweat, and tears that you put all this work in your music. And it's not perfect, but since people aren't selling albums anymore, you get paid per stream, and I think some platforms are paying you like a fraction of a penny
Okay.
per stream. So that'd be cool if we could make a little more on our streaming.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me about Drum Matrix, which is that's your project.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell me everything you want to tell me about that.
Okay, so Drum Matrix, I started it almost 2 years ago, sometime in 2018, and it's basically, the concept is all original electronic music that I produce in Cubase.
Mhm.
And Cubase is not popular anymore, but I love it. It's still my favorite
I
DAW.
use it too.
Yeah, I love it. I think it's great. So I use Cubase. I produce everything, original electronic tracks. And then I have here, can you see this here? I have this little Alesis DM10 right here.
Huh? Cool.
And basically I use that to track my MIDI drums. So essentially I do MIDI drum recordings for the drum parts for Drum Matrix. And that translates directly into the software. You can see your MIDI drum patterns. I can adjust a few things if I need to. But then for the performance part of Drum Matrix, what I do is when I play live on stage, I remove the drums from the mix so that when I'm playing on stage, everything's coming through the main stage mix and monitors except for the drums. So I've removed the drum tracks, and then I have a click in my headphone mix, and I just play the drums live to the music that I made. But essentially, I'm not playing drums on top of drums. Does that make sense? I remove the drums so that I can play them live.
That's cool.
So that's kind of the concept. It's, the drum matrix, like drums is me, obviously, and the matrix is kind of the computer.
Right.
So it's kind of like, digital drumming music.
Yeah, and it's cool. And now the term drum step, that's basically you, right? You made that up.
I'm trying to blaze the trail of this new genre that I'm calling drum step. And essentially, there's a lot of crossover between like heavy dubstep and metal. And my influences are metal. I grew up on metal, listening to it, learning to play it. So those are my roots. And I think that the one thing that a lot of dubstep is kind of missing is a little more intricate, interesting drum beats. A lot of dubstep music has rinse and repeat basic drum beats. I mean, the most predictable drum beats, kind of like house music, very predictable. It's very cookie cutter. So drum step is essentially like dubstep, but with more interesting drum patterns, live drum patterns, more complexity.
I like it's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Oh, that reminds me. So for the beginning of this video, we were listening to Primordial.
Yeah.
And I was listening to a bunch of your stuff, and that was the one I chose. So that's in the beginning. And also when we're done and rolling the credits, we're going to have that. I'll have more of that playing us out. So then I got that off Spotify. Where else are you at?
All the major platforms: Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, Amazon. I use a distributor, and it uploads to basically every streaming platform.
That's all.
Yep.
And YouTube. What are you on YouTube?
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. Just search Drum Matrix, spelled just like this, Drum Matrix. And they don't let you have your own hyperlink until you get a certain amount of followers. I don't know if you've ran into that, but it's like YouTube / gibberish, because you need to reach a certain amount on your account to basically have your own little hyperlink, which kind of annoying, but.
Now, are you in the process now of recording, or what are you up to since everything is on hold?
Yeah, so, well, I'm doing a lot of things. I am finishing up an EP, and it'll probably be out right before Halloween. It's going to be called Double-Edged Sword EP, and the sword is technology, so it's a double-edged sword. It's positive or it's negative depending on how you apply it. And it's going to be a 5-song EP. It'll be pretty short and sweet. I think about 25 minutes. That'll be coming out soon. So I'm wrapping up the mixing and mastering on that. And in between that, on the weekends, I've been busking. So I've been playing drums on the sidewalk for tips, and it's been actually going pretty well. And it's it's not all about the tips. Half of the fun is just meeting new people, and they're like, "Oh, I saw you last week," and they'll find me popping up in a different part of the city. So I'm just kind of growing a little organic following by just playing on the street.
And that's what I saw on YouTube, right? Is you're on the street just playing.
Yeah, and I don't actually know if a lot of my busking videos are on my YouTube, but they're for sure on my Instagram and my Facebook. I do need to update the YouTube. It's been a month or two since I've updated the YouTube.
Maybe I saw it on your Facebook. But I did see it.
It's probably on Facebook. But yeah, I have dozens of videos of playing on the street. They're usually short clips, like 60-second clips, just to show people.
That's cool.
About
Okay, a couple last questions. When you're not going to be busking or out there on the street or recording, what does Sam do for fun?
I snowboard every winter.
All right.
Yep, I'll be snowboarding, and also I do visual design. So long story short, I have a degree in industrial design, so I can do 3D modeling and rendering, and also like graphic design stuff. So computer design, and that helps me with all this kind of stuff, the merchandise, all the logos and graphics that you see on my pages. I create all those. So
it's pretty sick. The shirts are sick. I like that.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so to read once again, so everyone should look for this right before Halloween, your EP. I'm kind of excited about that. And is what I heard on Spotify, is that some samples, or is that the last project?
That would be the last album. So I have 2 full-length albums. Well, I don't know if they're full length, but 2 albums on Spotify and iTunes, and then like 4 singles. So I'm starting to build the arsenal of songs, and so this EP will just be another addition.
That's cool. All right. Well, I already told you, Primordial is my favorite. I listened to the stuff that was available this morning, and I liked it so much we're putting it in this video. So look out, everybody, for right before Halloween, right? The 30th or 31st?
Yeah, I do not have a release date set, but it's going to be in the next 2 weeks. It'll be out. So I should have a release date soon.
That's awesome. And look for Sam on Spotify. Look for him on YouTube and Facebook. Sam, thank you so much for being here today. You did a fantastic interview. Sam Pastorella, I'm very glad you're here today. Thank you so much. And
thanks, man.
Look for the interview on Drummers Universe.
Yeah. Can I give one last shout out?
Of course you can.
So this coming Friday, 6 days from now, I'm headlining a gig. It's called Hybrid Sound, and it's in Lakewood, Colorado. So if you're in the Denver area, I'll be headlining at Ontario Hall this coming Friday, the 16th, Hybrid Sound.
Wow, that's awesome.
If you're around, come check it out. It'll be a fun show.
All right, all of our drummers in Colorado, check that out. Sam, thank you again. Thanks so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Jeff.
All right, here's more of Primordial. Thank you, and we will see you next time.
See you later.
Thank you.
Adios.